House, I am so glad to be with you today. We're going to get ready to do some worship, so why don't you stand up and we can sing some praises to God.
I was lost with a broken heart. You picked me up, now I'm set apart. From the ash I am born again, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You are more than my words could say. I follow you, Lord, for all my days. Fix my eyes, follow in your ways. Forever free in unending grace. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, oh, oh. In the midst of the darkest night, let your love be the shining light, breaking chains that were holding me. You sent your son down and set me free. Everything of this world will fade. I'm pressing on till I see your face. I will live that your will be done. I won't stop till your kingdom come. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, oh, oh. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. You are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh.
Don't you just love celebrating all that God has done for us? I know I do. We're starting the next part of our series called Big Picture. And today we're learning that even when you can't see that big picture, you can still do the next right thing. So let's check out the next part of Joseph's story and see what he does next.
Boom. Circus, hire me. What's up, guys? I am so glad you joined us this week because we're right in the middle of a series called Big Picture. We've been talking a lot about how in life sometimes we miss the bigger picture. We see things only from our perspective, which means we only see one part of the story. And that causes us to miss the rest of what might be happening, the bigger picture. before we jump in today, let me start by asking you a really important question. How often do you do the right thing? Think about that for just a second. How often do you know the right thing to do and actually choose to do it? I think so many of us would admit that there's at least a few decisions we can look back on and say that we knew the right thing to do and still did the opposite. I mean, I know I have. That reminds me. So I'm in middle school, right? And you guys know you get tons of homework and tons of tests and quizzes that you've got to study for, and it's a lot to do, but I made a mistake. Just this one time. No, that's a lie. I made a lot of mistakes. But this one time, I was swamped with work and I just didn't know how I was gonna get it all done, so I made the wrong choice to cheat. I had a friend who was really great at staying on top of things and doing their homework, so I asked, hey, can I borrow that worksheet that you did and take it home and just maybe compare answers and copy all of your answers? So I took it home and I didn't get to work on it yet, but my parents asked, hey, Caleb, did you do your homework? And once again, I chose the wrong thing to do and I lied. And I said, oh, that old thing, yeah, I did all of that. And they said, okay, well go get it and show it to us. Wow, I was on my way to get my homework when I literally passed out. Guys, I'm telling you, I was so stressed out from doing the wrong thing and lying that I was walking to my backpack and I dropped. Needless to say, I got found out. I had to go apologize to the person I cheated off of. I had to apologize to my parents. It was a mess. Can we all agree on just one thing today? Doing the right thing isn't always easy. Sometimes choosing to do the right thing means not choosing fun or the exciting or most popular thing, the thing we actually want to do. That can make choosing the right thing in any situation a really hard choice to make. Honestly, I think that's because doing the right thing usually costs us something. Think about it. Okay, so you know the right thing is to be honest with your parents, coaches, or teachers, but if you are, you'll get in trouble for what you did. Doing the right thing will have a consequence or punishment, and that will definitely cost you something. Or you know the right thing is to babysit your siblings when your parents ask, but you honestly just don't feel like dealing with them. You'd rather throw a box of Cheerios, lock yourself in your room, watch Netflix, and let them figure it out. Doing the right thing will cost you that freedom. You know the right thing is to say no to the guy who asked you out if you aren't allowed to have a boyfriend. Or fellas, maybe you shouldn't ask her out in the first place if you know you aren't allowed to have a girlfriend. Doing the right thing will cost you the chance at that relationship. And that feels like too high of a cost. You know, the right thing is to be honest about how you're feeling in a friendship, but if you do, you might end up in a fight or fallout with a friend. That conflict is a cost that you don't want to pay. The list could go on and on and on. And the reality is we've all been in situations where we've had to choose if we're gonna do the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing feels really easy. I mean, it's an obvious choice. Other times, doing the right thing is really complicated. When we start to count the cost of doing the right thing, the choice suddenly isn't so clear. And sometimes it's difficult to do the right thing because we simply don't know what the right thing actually is. So here's the question. What can we do today, right now, to help us be prepared to do the right thing no matter what? I mean, even when it's difficult or unclear or gonna cost us a lot, how can we make decisions today that will have a positive impact on the bigger picture of our lives? Let's take a closer look at the life of one of the most famous figures in the Bible, Joseph. As we look at Joseph's life, we have the privilege of seeing the bigger picture. We see the whole story, but at the time, Joseph only saw what was happening right in front of him. Joseph started out as a guy who was in conflict with his brothers. That part I can relate to. I mean, you know how like I maybe took my older brother's shirt, but he took the last piece of garlic bread, and that's a bigger deal. Or maybe my little brother, he slept in my bed because it's bigger when I was out of town. But like, I mean, I guess I stole shotgun, the front seat of the car. I dove, but he called it, but like, I was there first. But then Joseph wound up thrown in an empty well, which I can relate to probably a little less. And then he was sold into slavery. That's not the happiest story ever. But God had big plans for Joseph. There was a bigger picture that Joseph couldn't see yet. A picture that was actually pretty incredible. I mean, it was so incredible that we're still talking about him thousands of years later. Thankfully, we get a front row seat to all of it because of another famous historical figure named Moses, who decided to write down the stories of his ancestors and their lives. One of his written records was called Genesis, and it's a part of the Old Testament in the Bible. In that book, Moses wrote the story of Joseph's life in great detail. One of the things he wrote about gives us an idea of how to do the right thing when the right thing is hard to do. We're picking up Joseph's story right after he was sold as a slave to a group of traders. Joseph was eventually bought by a pretty powerful Egyptian named Potiphar. This guy was a big shot in the government and the captain of Pharaoh's guard. Now, after some time working for Potiphar, Joseph was put in charge of Potiphar's entire house and everything he owned. So even though Joseph was in a bad situation, things seemed to be turning around for him, right? Well, this is where the story starts to take a turn. Just look at what happened next. Now, Joseph was well built and handsome. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." Wait, what? Can we talk about how bad that was? Joseph, I mean, he's this good looking dude. You know, he's got the flow, he's got muscle. He was working hard for his boss, Potiphar, when suddenly, out of nowhere, Potiphar's wife took notice. And just like that, she invited him to do something that was just meant for her and her husband, not her and Joseph. See, Potiphar's wife was basically inviting Joseph to have an affair with her. And I think we all know that's a really tough situation. Now, let's talk about this like it happened now, just for a second. This is like your best friend's boyfriend or girlfriend texting you, or they DM you or Snapchat you, and they ask you to hang out on the side. I mean, sure, they might be really cute, but they're with your bestie, your dude, your dudette, your homie, your fella, your person, not you. So having them ask you to sneak around and hang out on the low isn't a great situation for you to be in, right? It's an invitation to do something you know isn't right. And the same was true with Joseph. There was a lot at stake here. He could have easily given in to the temptation Potiphar's wife presented him. He could have let the invitation go to his head. He could have considered what he could have gotten away with and decided, maybe I'll give it a shot. But all of that, all of those little choices that ultimately could have led to him having this affair with Potiphar's wife, well, they would have cost Joseph something. And Joseph, he was trying to do the right thing. So he decided to take a different route, but he refused. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Instead of giving in to Potiphar's wife, Joseph decided to do what was right. Not just one time, but over and over and over again. Every time Potiphar's wife came to Joseph with the same invitation, Joseph made the choice to do the right thing. I mean, that's awesome. You'd think that because Joseph made the choice to do the right thing, everything just worked out great. This right choice was so obvious and clear that you'd think it wouldn't cost Joseph much. You'd think it would all work out great. But believe it or not, doing the right thing eventually wound up costing Joseph his freedom. You see, sometime later, Potiphar's wife came to Joseph again with her inappropriate invitation. Only This time, she actually grabbed his cloak. Joseph tried so hard to do the right thing. My man shimmied out of his cloak and he took off running. He just left his cloak behind in her hands. Now, because Potiphar's wife obviously did some sketchy things, she told everyone that Joseph pursued her. She said that when she screamed for help, Joseph ran and left his cloak behind. I mean, of course, Potiphar wasn't happy when he heard this story, so he threw Joseph in prison. This definitely is not the happy ending you'd expect for someone who chose to do the right thing. Because sometimes doing the right thing will get you applause and approval, and sometimes it won't. Sometimes doing the right thing will come at a cost that seems completely unfair. And that's exactly what happened here with Joseph. But Joseph did the right thing because he had integrity. And doing the right thing, regardless of the cost, is the definition of integrity. Joseph, he couldn't see the bigger picture. He didn't know that choosing the right thing would get him thrown into prison. And even when he was in prison, Joseph didn't know that God was still working, still creating an incredible big picture for his life. But Joseph, he didn't need to know because he was operating with integrity. Joseph knew that choosing the right thing was the best decision, no matter what happened next. Guys, that's what I want you to know too. Here's what I think we can remember from Joseph's story. When you can't see the bigger picture, do the next right thing. In the moments Joseph was faced with a choice, he didn't know the bigger picture. He couldn't see it yet, but he still chose to do the next right thing. He still chose to hold on to his integrity. So how can we do the same? When we're struggling to do the next right thing or make the next right choice, what can we do to help us hold on to our integrity? Well, first, you can see your situation. What situation are you in where you need to do the next right thing? Maybe it's in a relationship that's starting to push your boundaries. Maybe it's in a conversation you've been avoiding with your parents. Maybe it's in a friendship that needs to change. Whatever it is, think about what situation you're in where you need to take a step in the right direction. See the situation where you need help in making the right choice. Then next, identify the next right thing to do. Not all the right things to do, just the next right thing. Do you need to confess something to a parent? Do you need to ask a friend for help with something? Do you maybe need to apologize to someone in your life? Do you need to skip or miss out on a party that you've been invited to? Do you need to stop looking at someone else's homework? Do you need to have a tough conversation with a boyfriend or girlfriend? In your situation, what is the next right thing? Guys, here's the deal. It's easy to sit here and think about the next right thing to do. It's even easier to totally forget about it when you leave. So there's one final thing I want you to do. Tell somebody the next right thing you're trying to do. Talk to your small group leader. Talk to your friend or someone at home about the step that you're just trying to take. Invite them to ask you this week if you actually did it. Let them help you take a step toward the right thing right now. Taking these steps today is something that will shape our lives for the better tomorrow. Guys, remember, you don't have to see the big picture in order to make the right choice. Instead, day by day, when you're faced with all sorts of decisions and choices, you can choose the next right choice. When you can't see the bigger picture, do the next right thing. As you head out today, think about your answer to this question. In what situation do I need to do the next right thing? I should probably go pick up those apples.
Joseph faced a lot of really hard problems. He had to see his situation and think what was the next right thing to do, even though maybe others around him weren't doing the same. Maybe you've been in a hard situation too and you weren't sure what to do. That's why I want you guys to take some time to download the activity sheet in the description below so you can start to think through what could be the next right thing for you to do in whatever you're facing. So think about that, and I'll see you guys next week.